Most people agree that discipline is necessary for the life of a child, but not all agree on what constitutes discipline, and not all agree on its ultimate purpose. Even in Scripture, we are given some notable examples of discipline gone wrong, and sometimes absent altogether, as was the case with Eli the priest and King David with his own sons. The purpose of discipline is instruction. It's designed as a corrective with a view to restoration, sanctification, and transformation. Discipline without the cross tends toward bullying and oppression. Discipline, where the cross is central, is designed by God to transform and heal. Punishment, on the other hand, is meted out in the simple interests of justice. The ultimate goal of punishment is not self-improvement, but removal. When God finally pitches the wicked from his sight, it will not be with a view to restoration. All true godly discipline points to the reality of the cross as the means by which we are restored to the household of God. And so, as strange as it may seem to 21st century man, adorning our lives with the gospel includes adorning our lives with the marks of discipline, the ultimate purpose of which is holiness. In the gospel, Jesus is chastised for the sins of mankind, and this sets the context for our discipline. Isaiah 53:5. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. In Proverbs 13:24, we read that, "Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but the one who loves him is careful to discipline him." To withhold discipline, therefore, is to consign your child to endless frustration, and ultimately, God's grace notwithstanding, it is to consign them to death. It is to hate them, to not care less. But the one who loves their child is careful to discipline him. The supreme example is the love of God that brought Jesus into the world. Once we understand what God was accomplishing in his Son through discipline, we can think about the purpose of discipline we administer to our own sons and daughters. In the first place, the purpose of discipline is to bring us to God. A child who sins against God. The purpose of discipline is not so the parent can get some frustration off their chest, but to bring the authority of God to bear in the child's life. Furthermore, because discipline is instructive, it typically involves words. Those words are to bring the lordship of Jesus to bear in the child's life. In the second place, discipline restores our place in the family. It restores our relationships with one another. Discipline acknowledges that a fracture has occurred in the community, and though painful, godly discipline reassures our hearts that we are loved and that we belong. In the third place, the purpose of discipline is to keep those we love from harm. And so Solomon says in Proverbs 23 verse 13, "Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. If you strike him with a rod, you will save his soul from Sheol." Put simply, the goal of godly discipline is to train our children to lead productive, fruitful lives that obey God's commandments and see discipline of the Lord as the love of a father who cares. Finally, the Bible not only calls for discipline, but also tells us how it should be administered. It is to be painful. Discipline that is not painful is not discipline. Patting a disobedient child on the bum through their nappy is not discipline. It's just annoying. It should be swift. Discipline, wherever possible, should also be immediate. Counting to 10 teaches kids to count, and perhaps obey at 9. But delayed obedience is disobedience. If obedience is not prompt, then the discipline should be. It should be consistent. Discipline should be distributed evenly, consistently, and fairly, and measured according to the sin, not the immature motor skills of a 4-year-old. In other words, an accident with the milk should not be treated the same as pinching $20 from Dad's wallet. Next, it should be calm, and it should restore calm. Discipline should not be administered in anger. To warn your child 5 times, then fall into a spasm of verbal or physical rage for their failure to obey is not discipline. It's you being a bully. At this point, the only thing you are instructing your child in is how to wage war when things don't go your way. Immediate discipline tends to avoid this problem. When we are disciplined, we are being treated as sons, whether young or old. We may not always understand the immediate reason for God's discipline, but we are called to trust Him and respond with a contrite heart to the flat tire, the job loss, and the kidney stones. For those who refuse God, discipline is a warning of dreadful things to come. For those who love God and put their trust in Him, discipline is a promise of good things to come and an eternal home.